Behind me is the original location of the raptor paddock at Jurassic Park, but we have come here to see much more than that, and I'm excited that you're here with me. Well, hi there. I just returned from Jurassic Park, literally. And while we were there, we discovered a number of things that I didn't expect, including what appeared to be a new species of toad living on the island. Not to mention sea turtles, monk seals, glorious geckos, beautiful birds, and hosts of other cool animals. So if you don't mind, I'd like to take you along with me to discover all that we found in Jurassic Park. Okay, let me start in the very beginning, which is a very good place to start. This year, I'm celebrating a big birthday. And for my birthday, my incredible wife Leisha surprised me with a helicopter ride to the waterfall where the helicopter lands when Doctors Grant, Sattler, and Malcolm arrive at Jurassic Park. A waterfall that can only be accessed by helicopter on the island of Kauai. An island that is only about 20% accessible in any way other than by helicopter. And I will say that this was an experience that I will never forget. I'll start by telling you that my expectations were that we would go to the waterfall, get to walk up to it, take pictures, and then fly back, and that we wouldn't be killed in a fiery helicopter crash. My hope and dream was that we would approach the waterfall by way of canyon, just like they did in the movie. But for all I knew, that canyon was in Costa Rica. There may not even be a canyon like that leads to Mauna Waipuna Falls, better known as Jurassic Falls. But as it turns out, there was a canyon. And the approach was absolutely incredible. It felt just like the movie. They even play the music for you. When we landed at the falls, we got to walk the path where the jeeps entered the park and walk up to the falls with the mist of the falls gently saturating us. Along with Leisha and myself were our two oldest children, Owen and Penny, who had been saving up for months so that they could join us on this unforgettable adventure. Our two younger children, Martha and Clara, were back at the Airbnb with Brian Cusco, Garrett Hartle, and their amazing families who awesomely accepted our invitation to join us on this adventure to the island of Kauai, where Brian and his wife Hillary were married a few years and 4 children ago. Garrett and his wife Ashley also have 4 kids, so it was a lot of fun and a lot of children. But we'll get to them later, because my experience at Jurassic Falls was one that I will never forget. I will never be able to watch my favorite movie again without thinking and perhaps exclaiming, "I've been there! I did that!" and then thanking Leisha profusely. But at this point, as long as we survived the trip back, I was going to be well beyond ecstatic about my experience. But it turned out that it was far from over. Because after we left the falls, our pilot took us on a full tour of the entire island. An island that has lush forests as well as glorious red rock canyons. Unforgettable coastline, and waterfalls. Waterfalls like I'd never seen before. Being the rainy season, there were many rain-fed waterfalls that are not always present. At one point we pulled into a basin that was probably 60 to 70% enclosed, hovered in the middle, and then spun the helicopter around. Our pilot commented that there weren't as many waterfalls the last time she'd been there, and I believe her. I've never even seen a photograph of so many waterfalls all together, let alone seen it in person. Just dozens of long, skinny waterfalls stretching down from the peaks, lined up side by side. It was an absolutely life-changing experience, but not the last such experience that I would have on this adventure. A few years ago, while returning from our 2-week expedition to the Peruvian Amazon, we accidentally ended up spending the night in an all-expenses-paid resort on a beach in Cancun, Mexico. Which I must say, after spending the last 2 weeks truly suffering in the jungle, was one of the most incredible experiences of my life. It was so incredible, in fact, that just a few weeks later I returned to Cancun with my wonderful wife Leisha, and we spent a few days on the glorious Isla Mujeres, which was quite possibly the most magical place I'd ever been. I'd never been to Hawaii, a place that all of my life I had imagined to be roughly the most amazing place that you could go. That said, I couldn't imagine how Hawaii could be any better. Well, until I learned from a guest at Clint's Reptile Room that in Hawaii, the sea turtles come up onto the beach, not just to lay eggs, but daily, just to rest and bask. A behavior observed in very few locations on Earth. And though it was my understanding that Kauai was not the best place to observe this behavior, I was hopeful that I might get to see a wild sea turtle at some point during the trip. something I'd never before experienced. By the way, if you're wondering how you end up accidentally spending the day at an all-expenses-paid resort in Cancun, I'm pretty sure that topic is going to come up during our extra video we have for our Stinkin' Rad fans at Patreon. So if you'd be interested in learning that story or seeing all of the amazing content we have for our patrons, please consider checking it out. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and it's a great reminder that mental health matters just as much as physical health. Whether you're dealing with daily stress, feeling anxious, or just not quite yourself lately, you're not alone. Taking care of our own well-being helps us live fuller lives and better support the people around us. That's why we've partnered with BetterHelp. BetterHelp is an online therapy platform that connects you with licensed therapists trained to support you through anxiety, stress, and more. It's flexible, affordable, and totally online, so getting help fits easily into your life. You start by filling out a brief questionnaire, and within a few days, you'll be matched with a therapist that fits your needs. If it's not the right match, you can switch anytime at no extra cost. 69% of BetterHelp members report feeling better after just 6 weeks of therapy. With over 8,000 reviews and a 4.3 rating on Trustpilot, many people have found BetterHelp to be a helpful and supportive resource. So during Mental Health Awareness Month, if you've been thinking about talking to someone, this might be the time. Let BetterHelp help you rule your anxiety so it doesn't rule you. Click the link in the description or go to betterhelp.com/ClintsReptiles to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/ClintsReptiles to get 10% off. Prioritizing your mental health is a powerful act of self-care and one you absolutely deserve. Thanks for watching, and as always, take care of yourself and each other. I know that some people have concerns with the sponsor of today's video, and I welcome your feedback. I've been researching it extensively myself, and while I definitely think that there were some problems with the company in the past when it was under different leadership, I haven't found anything about the company in 2025 that I find concerning. They provide a needed service, and based on the reports I've seen from every nonprofit that evaluates such companies, they do it very well. I never want to recommend bad products or bad companies. We turn down potential sponsors regularly, but I will also not reject good partners based on bad information or threats and insults. It could be that you know something that I do not. I'm always open to this possibility, and if so, please educate me. I won't be bullied into making decisions, but I'm always open to changing my opinion based on new and verifiable information. So if you have some, please let me know. The first beach that we visited was one that we had heard was likely to have turtles, and almost as soon as we arrived, we heard someone shouting that they'd just seen one. We managed to get there just as it was climbing over the coral, and for a few seconds, we saw the shell of a wild sea turtle as it poked out of the ocean. As Dave Kaufman would say, this was my life for sea turtle, which was very exciting. Now, I want to talk about these for a second. I had seen snorkeling masks like these for years, and they seemed like a good idea, but I'd never tried one before. I have a very funny relationship with the ocean. It's one of my favorite things on the planet, and it scares me to death. I have the worst amount of knowledge of the ocean. I know of so many ways that it can kill you. I know of so many animals that can end your life or do catastrophic damage. So many that you would never expect that I know that there must be even more that I don't know about. But I don't know a whole lot about how common they are or exactly where they're found. And for that reason, I tend to like to stay in the shallows where I can see clearly what is around me. I love tide pools. I've had some unforgettable experiences snorkeling, and if I'm going to be in deeper water, I definitely want to see what's around me. But I've always found the equipment to be a bit claustrophobic. You have kind of tunnel vision, and you have to be very focused on your breathing. You must not breathe through your nose, just your mouth. And in many cases, you need to keep the snorkel clear, as many will fill with water if they ever become submerged. But these masks seem like they would solve most, if not all, of those problems. That said, I'd heard mixed reviews of masks of this basic design, so I did a lot of research into the exact masks that I got. I'll include links to them in the description because they were exceptional. As soon as my face entered the water, I was immersed in another world. The field of view was complete. It just felt like I was completely in the water and I could see everything around me. Beautiful fish were everywhere. Hawaii has surprisingly sterile beaches. We found a few crabs, but the tide pools, they do not have nearly the life that I'm used to seeing in places like the Oregon coast, California, Cancun, or Florida. Really, anywhere else that I'd looked in tide pools. But once you're just a few feet out, it comes totally alive. These masks allow you to breathe through your nose and your mouth, which I found allowed me to relax much more than I had in previous snorkeling expeditions. And they self-seal when submerged, so I never had to clear one. A few times the snorkel would be submerged when I didn't realize, and when I would attempt to inhale, the mask would suction to my face and I would get no air. And that was pretty alarming the first couple of times that it happened. But once I knew about it, I knew that I just had to wait a second and then I would be able to breathe again. It was startling because I didn't expect it. But these masks were absolutely the best thing I brought with me on this trip. Other than my family, of course. Because as we will discuss later, the land is surprisingly devoid of animal life. And so are the beaches. But I pretty much wanted to spend the entire trip here in the sea. And my first time out with these snorkels, I was able to observe several green sea turtles grazing in the shallows and seemingly entirely unconcerned with our presence. An absolutely epic experience that I will never forget, but far from the last, and not even the most special. One of my goals for this trip was to learn how to use a lot of new filming equipment that we have. I wasn't planning to make a video about this trip, but I wanted to get ready for two major expeditions that we have coming up later this year. And one of the major things that I needed to learn was how to get good footage underwater. Because I have something to film underwater here soon that is the animal on this earth that I most want to see in my lifetime. I wouldn't want to mess that up. Leisha got me this amazing GoPro for Christmas, and the masks have an included GoPro mount. And my first dive testing the mount, I had one of the greatest experiences of my lifetime. I was following a spotted eagle ray for a long time, past many resting and grazing sea turtles, when it led me to one of the largest sea turtles I saw on the entire trip, perhaps the largest, who was casually swimming in the same direction that we were. Though I had stuck with the ray past many sea turtles, I could tell that it was time to change my course. This sea turtle just swam with me for several of the most magical minutes of my entire life. Until we were so far out to sea that I thought, how far out am I? And upon looking back to shore, I decided that I was in a bit of a survival situation now and I'd better head back. But it was absolutely captivating. And tragically, as you can tell, my footage of this whole event was terrible. The camera was pointed too far down and the mount is too high. So the camera is constantly transitioning from above the water to below. I wish so badly that you could have seen what I saw, but I guess this is why I was testing the equipment, so this wouldn't happen at an even more important time. That said, by this point, I'd already experienced and filmed so many incredible things that I decided to make a video. But it haunted me that I hadn't been able to capture this experience to share with you. And I went on many more dives in many places where we saw sea turtles. I learned how to capture amazing underwater footage. I saw some incredible fish, but I couldn't recreate this experience until my last dive of the trip, right before we had to head to the airport. And I'll share that with you here in a minute. But right now, I want to talk to you about that mystery toad. Along with sea turtles on land and Jurassic Falls, two other things that had drawn me to Hawaii were the invasive gold dust day geckos, which are one of my two favorite day geckos, and the invasive cane toads, which are one of my two favorite toads. The other being this one, the most insane toad I've seen in my entire life. I love cane toads. Cane toads get a bad rap because they've been deliberately introduced to control cane beetles all over the world and then tend to become highly invasive because few animals can eat them given their toxicity. But none of that is their fault. Cane toads are magical. I mean, just imagine a beautiful, calm toad that can get as big as a football. The first one I ever encountered in my life was a gargantuan female in their native range of the Amazon rainforest. How could I not fall in love with this glorious Sheila? And when I found out that they were present, and in fact common in Hawaii, well, I pretty much had to go. And toading was one of my favorite activities on the island, especially because there were a number of mysteries about the toads that we had to unlock. On my first night on the island, I found a small cane toad by our house, which was enough to get me excited about them. Owen, Garrett, and I then went on a rather long walk looking for more, and we found several. In fact, we found 2 different kinds of toads. Cane toads that looked very much like those that we'd found in the Amazon, only smaller, and a similarly shaped toad of similar size that was very different in many ways. For one thing, they were much brighter in color, more of a yellow, and without the dorsal stripe of the cane toads. Like cane toads, they had large parotoid glands. But whereas cane toads, in my experience, have relatively few bumps on their backs and are very soft and smooth to the touch, these toads were covered in tiny bumps that were much more numerous and were rough to the touch. We refer to these toads as pineapple toads. And we really enjoyed catching both cane toads and pineapple toads. Over the next several nights, we explored in the direction of a small pond that was less than a half a mile from our home. One of the things that we most wanted to find was a large adult female cane toad like I'd found in the Amazon. We were seeing hundreds of toads, and with the exception of a small number of relatively small toads, all of them were about the same size. A large but not exceedingly large toad, maybe a quarter of the size I'd seen before. I knew that cane toad females were larger than males, so perhaps these were adult males, but we hadn't seen any large females. And it's their size that makes me love them so much. In our expeditions, we found countless toads, and as we approached the pond, began to hear the distinctive call of American bullfrogs, which I was unaware were found in Hawaii. Eventually, we found many bullfrogs of all sizes, and almost without exception, they were the most distinctively patterned bullfrogs that I've ever seen. I mean, look at these frogs. They're just exquisite. In addition to the world's largest toad and one of the world's largest frogs, we also found the world's largest terrestrial snail, the giant African land snail. And all of these things are invasive on the island. Honestly, I can't figure out how there can be so many giant frogs on an island where we hardly saw any insects at all. I'm really not sure what they're eating. But night after night we searched, and night after night, all we found were literally hundreds of rather identically sized pineapple toads and cane toads, but no giants. In addition to looking different from one another, we also found the pineapple toads to be much more elusive. So they looked very different, felt very different, and acted very different. And for a few days, I didn't want to look up what they were. I enjoyed calling them pineapple toads, but eventually curiosity got the best of me. I started searching, and it turns out that the bullfrogs are well documented as being in Hawaii, but I could not find a single source that reported more than one species of toad, though I did sometimes see pictures of pineapple toads listed as cane toads. So what was going on? Well, I didn't find out until I got home and really started to dig into the subject. But one of the crazy things about Hawaii is that it has so few total species. Though there are many introduced reptiles and amphibians, they have no native terrestrial reptiles and no native amphibians at all. There are 5 species of sea turtles and 1 species of sea snake. That's it. When it comes to mammals, they have 1 species of monk seal, which I will talk about more in a minute, and bats. 1 species of bat. 2 native mammals. They have a few native birds, like the nene goose, which we saw with some regularity, but almost everything on land was invasive, from the animals to the plants. Hawaii is just such a remote place that almost no flightless terrestrial life has managed to find it. Well, which is probably why it's a safe place for sea turtles to come onto shore and just hang out without any fear of predators. I did get to see that a couple of times. Just dozens of sea turtles up on the beach enjoying the sun without a care in the world. I just didn't know that they ever did this, and I feel so blessed to have seen this with my own eyes. But not only sea turtles come up on shore like this, because Hawaii has an endemic monk seal, the Hawaiian monk seal. This seal. Monk seals are the only earless seals found in the tropics, and these are only found on and around Hawaii. I only filmed this seal from a distance using high magnification, as repeated disturbance from humans can cause them to abandon beaches where they rest. These guys eat as much as they can, and then digest on the tiger shark and other predator-free beaches. You could walk right up and touch one, but they're endangered, and causing them to abandon their beaches and return to the shark-filled waters around them could be devastating. But it was awesome to get to see such a remarkable creature. And we all got to spend an afternoon with an albatross resting in our backyard. Not an experience that I've ever had before. And having just made a video all about them, I think I took an extra amount of joy from the experience. But like I said, most of the animals that we saw on land were invasive. And while I hope that the introductions cease, I can at least take some solace in recognizing that in most cases, they aren't displacing native species. There just was nothing there. We saw gold dust day geckos, which lived right outside our house. House geckos, which lived right on our house, and mourning geckos, which lived there too. We saw both Carolina and Bahama anoles, including this glorious male that I got to see flagging with his beautiful red dewlap for a long time. I'll make sure to compile some cool animal footage at the end of this video if you want to see more. This bird, the red-headed cardinal, is so much more spectacular in person than I can possibly describe. Garrett declared it to be his new favorite bird. It turns out that it's not really a cardinal, it's a tanager, and it's unsurprisingly invasive. But what a glorious bird. And the jungle fowl, the bird from which chickens were domesticated, were basically everywhere. Introduced by the ancient Polynesians, so they've been there for a long time. So what are the pineapple toads? Well, I finally found out. I knew that female cane toads got bigger than males, and I honestly want a big old female for Clint's reptile room. More people need to experience these glorious, gigantic toads. But I've wondered how I would be able to tell if it was a male or a female while it was small. And the answer is that it will be very easy. Because cane toads are apparently the most sexually dimorphic toads I have ever known to exist. Females not only get larger, but they have a different coloration, texture, and, as we discovered, personality than do males. Pineapple toads are not a second species of toads in Hawaii. They're male cane toads. As to why there was no sign of large females, I still don't know. But it might have something to do with prey availability. Something was keeping huge numbers of these toads alive. But even when we found them in the pond, apparently getting ready to breed, all of them were much, much smaller than the large female that we found in Peru. Real quick, I want to tell you about a great experience that I didn't get to film, but that I had, and then we'll get to my final sea turtle experience that brought this already legendary trip to the perfect close. That experience was watching a snowflake moray eel hunt. It probably comes as no surprise that I love moray eels, and I have long loved snowflake morays. But this was my first time seeing one in the wild. It's a snake. I was fascinated as I watched it slither from rock to rock, carefully investigating the underside of each one before moving on to the next. It didn't move like a waterfish. It moved like a snake. And if you don't believe me, check out this video that I just saw for the first time the other day. It's a snake. That's not really a snake. But during this trip, we had so many unforgettable experiences. We went on an epic hike where I went cliff jumping for the first time. We had a blast swinging into the pond below these falls. But during many of these experiences, my heart was heavy as I had not been able to capture a usable bit of footage swimming along with a turtle. And on my final dive of the trip, this happened. If that isn't one of the most magical things that ever happens to me, I can't wait to see what comes next. Thank you so much to my wonderful wife, Leisha, as well as my children, Owen, Penny, Martha, and Clara, as well as Garrett, Ashley, Kira, Riley, Garrison, and Finley Hartle, and Brian, Hillary, Noah, Eli, Leia, and Mackay Cusco for making this probably the best birthday ever. Please check out their channels down in the description. And as always, like and subscribe, and we hope to see you real soon. And aloha.
Well, hi there, and welcome to Jurassic Park. Behind me is the original location of the raptor paddock at Jurassic Park, but we have come here to see much more than that, and I'm excited that you're here with me. A bird just landed on my arm. I haven't seen this kind of bird at all. Been attacked by a bird at Jurassic Park. That's a dinosaur. I've been attacked by a dinosaur at Jurassic Park. You coming? That was crazy.
When we landed at the falls, we got to... Sorry, there's a new torture exhibition that moved in next door. And we've been getting this all day.
Spectacular.
Let's go with that. Let's see.
Breathtaking. Amazeballs.
Amazeballs coastline.
Dinosaur attack?
Mm-hmm. At the raptor paddock.
Oh, okay. I assume a bird, aka dinosaur.
No, it's a dinosaur.
Attacks you in the raptor paddock.
Isn't that insane?
What dinosaur species is this?
Was it a raptor?
Yeah. A Maniraptoran.
Okay. What species?
It was a finch that I saw at no other time in the entire time. I'm recording myself and it like grabs onto my arm. You can actually see in the footage as it flutters up behind me, and then and then I flip the camera around so you actually get to see the bird pretty well.
That's funny.
Wild. I'm at the raptor paddock.
You have the scars to show for it?
Well, unlike Muldoon, like I came out of it pretty well. Got Mr. Arnold, got Muldoon.
So did it circle you and get you from the side?
I didn't see it coming, I'll tell you that right now. From the sides. And we get all the way to the end of the security line and they go, oh yeah, your flight's canceled.
At this point, we were like, kill us now.
Yes.
We're like 36 hours into it now.
Yeah.
Something like that.
And we're like, what?